I give up on trying to have a sound treated room ever. Apparently, that's never going to happen. Welcome to another episode of Use Your Words Podcast. We're going to have some interesting fun because I'm going to throw some terms at Aaron and see if he understands what they are. Apple, CSAM, privacy, fake news. I know he knows some of those, but how do those all intersect? How are they all brought together? And why does that make me ranty at times? I guess we'll find that all out.
He was stroking my leg with his foot. So I just like pulled out of my pants and I just like ripped him. Because it's like pop, 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 pop. So now I ripped my pants while recording a podcast.
All right.
The things never end.
Nope.
Seeing Aaron relive that memory is a wonderful thing every single time.
Painful.
Yes, it is. Welcome to another episode of Use Your Words Podcast. My name is Paul, joined by Aaron once again, thankfully, even after I gave him that intro. So
I brought it upon myself. I just didn't know it was going to happen.
So there's a lot that's been going on recently, both in the world of technology, of world news in general. And when I say that, that's because, well, if you've been paying attention, you would know that, I don't know, COVID's still kind of raging across the Delta variant. And now there's talk about the Lambda variant and all that are fun stuff. So a lot of fun going on with that. But interestingly enough, it's the fall again. And what happens every fall?
People start getting sick.
Well, yes, people start getting sick, but
Well, it's winter.
Yeah, and yes, we're still technically summer, but we're getting ready we're gearing up for this fall season of technology releases. I would know that more so than you because
I was also thinking, the good old Han Solo outfit season.
Oh yes.
Pumpkin spice.
Spice when everyone wears the same outfit. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's for techno people like me, it's the new technology season. It's the new release of Android. Android 12 is coming out in a few weeks. iOS 15 will be out in a few weeks. The new iPhones will be announced and then released in a few weeks. Samsung just had an event where they're releasing new watches and phones, and that they'll be publicly available in the next few weeks. So it's the cornucopia of mobile technology all here right at the end of summer, right before fall really starts out.
I wonder, do they plan that out like that, do you think?
It becomes kind of this annual release cycle. Once they kind of start releasing products, it just becomes an annual release. And it's not the worst idea to release products close to one another like that, especially things that are similarly spec'd. Let's say an iPhone versus a Samsung. Although Samsung right now has some interesting phones like the new foldables that are coming out.
What?
Yeah, they're foldable phones.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Okay.
So there's some interesting things with that in that regard. But that being said, I'm going to throw a term at you, Aaron, because this has been in the news recently.
Well,
yeah. And for you Android people out there, you're going to go like, what are you talking about? I don't understand what this is. And that's okay. Because this has really been making more it's been making headlines in the news in general.
Okay.
But it's been making it more on for the Apple people. So much so that on one of the subreddits I frequently visit, they have a daily mega thread just for this topic that they produce a new thread every day because so many people have so many pieces of information. And it's interesting as I read through it, seeing how much misinformation is in there and how much people over-exaggerate some of these things. Now, that being said, I will fully admit there are some dangerous things that are involved with this that set some bad precedent for the future. That being said, if I say to you, Aaron, in a new version of iOS, the iPhone operating system, Apple is going to introduce CSAM. CSAM. What does that mean? Do you have any idea?
No. Now I'm just thinking about seesaws.
Okay, yeah.
It's about as much as I
So
get right there.
so they're going to introduce CSAM scanning.
CSAM.
Now, CSAM is not something that's specific to iOS. That's an acronym for something that
Oh, it's an acronym?
Yep.
So is it SEESAM or
CSAM.
oh,
CSAM.
Oh, it's not SEE or SEAC. Oh,
No.
it's just the letter
It's
C.
CSAM. That's an acronym for something that Apple is going to start scanning for in the near future.
I got nothing.
Okay, so CSAM stands for Child Sexual Abuse Material.
Whoa. Okay.
So, in other words, I hate using the phrase because it seems so vulgar, but I'm not trying to be oversimplistic or anything. And also because I'm staring at the wall of your sister's kids, which makes it even creepier.
Family.
CSAM, child porn.
Yeah.
That's what it is, okay?
That's what it's. Wait.
That's what CSAM is.
That's what it is?
Yep, child sexual abuse material. So that's what that acronym means. The face that Aaron just gave a recognition, like, oh, I get it now.
Okay, yep. All right.
Okay.
Why is that? Okay.
So that's the acronym. So instead of you having to say child sexual abuse material every time, you just say CSAM. Okay. So Apple said that in an upcoming version of iOS 15, they are going to start on the phone scanning for CSAM material. Now, that being said, okay, and this is where it gets into some of the fun with people going, well, I have pictures of my kid as they're growing up. Is that can get flagged? No, it's not.
Oh,
and there are people going, oh, so I'm going to get labeled as a sexual predator because I have a picture of my 1-year-old kid as I'm watching them for their first bath or not first bath at one. That'd be horrible. But when they're baths, when they're a young kid, and they're like, no, that's not how this works. So this has raised uproar. So I was like, this is interesting. And I took some time to look through all the stuff and how this works and everything. And I was like, interesting. So I'm going to describe to you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Don't even imagine that forget that it's CSAM. Just imagine your phone provider, Samsung. Okay.
So
Samsung has decided to implement a policy where when you get a new software update, they are now going to start scanning for fingerprints of files. And if you have so many of those fingerprints, you get reported to the police, essentially. So what they do is...
Wait, what's a fingerprint?
We'll get there. So what they'll do is they'll scan your... you just take a photo right now, right? Okay? You take a photo. Before it's synchronized to the cloud, in this case, Samsung's cloud, in the iPhone case, before it goes to the iPhotos cloud, it is scanned against that fingerprint database. If it matches, a low-res copy of the photo plus the fingerprint plus your information is sent up to a different database, essentially.
Correct.
And then that photo is still synced up. Okay? After 30 or so hits, like they're talking like you would have to get hit like 30 times for them. They then manually look at the photos, go, are they really abusing children or not? And then report you to police depending on that.
Okay.
So based on that, what's your thoughts on that?
How hard is it to get a hit though? Like, would you get a hit if you were just like, oh, this is my kid, the silly bath photo picture or whatever? Like, would that be a hit?
That's a good question. That's what people were afraid of, and that's what was going around the news originally.
Because I guess, how do you distinguish between that and someone like going, like seeking to look at? I want to say CSAM.
CSAM.
That's so cool. I like that. I don't like that, but I like the acronym.
Wow.
It's so much better to say than the.
Yeah.
But
anyways, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So here's how this works, and this is where we're going to have some fun with you.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay. Imagine. Okay. Take this can of soda.
Can.
Okay. How would you describe this can of soda?
It's aluminum.
But how would you describe this can where it is unique amongst all other cans placed by it?
You moved it there. What?
So what CSAM relies upon?
Yeah.
It relies on that fingerprint of the file. It relies on what's called a cryptographic hash. It relies upon a unique ability to identify a particular photo. Notice what I said, photo, not contents of photo.
Okay.
Not subject in photo. Photo.
Okay.
So if I want to describe this can uniquely, I would have to have some mathematical way to represent, in this case, its location in, latitude, longitude, location on the table, and its shape and all that right here, and put that into essentially like this big, long, complex mathematical formula and get out a number or a string of hex. It's called a hash, a cryptographic hash.
Huh.
That means this can in this location will always be unique from any other can placed here, even if they're placed in the same exact spot on the table.
Oh, it's the same can?
If it's the same can, it would get the same number. But if I got different can, right? Yeah. Another Coke Zero Sugar Cherry.
Oh yeah, I guess I'm saying
I get another can. Yeah. It looks almost identical. I put it in the same spot on the table.
Yeah.
But because of maybe some minute differences in the can, different hash, a different fingerprint. Okay.
Wow.
Think of it. So you apply that to a photograph, right?
Yeah.
Look in the back wall of your sister's photographs, okay?
Yeah.
Take the middle one where it's the family photo.
Yep.
If you were able to take math and analyze, the pieces of the color, the what the background is, what the foreground is, and not care what the subject are, but you're just taking like every pixel, run that through an algorithm, run that through some mathematical equations. I'm not asking you to define these mathematical equations. I'm not, okay, I'm not asking you to define that, but know that there's things out there that do this, right? And then you get at the end this string, this representation of numbers and that. And whenever you see that, that indicates that picture was seen. You don't actually know what's in the picture. You don't know what the contents are, and there's no way to reveal what the contents were. You only see that picture was seen.
What the heck?
Ugh. So that's what this is doing. So there is one agency, in the entire United States that is authorized legally to have CSAM material.
Oh, okay.
Okay. One agency. That agency takes known CSAM material, creates a hash for each file, gives the hashes to Apple or whoever else wants to do it.
Right.
And then Apple puts in their software, puts in a database, puts it on the phone. So your phone, when you take the photo, it goes, does this photo hash match a CSAM hash? It doesn't have to analyze and look at the contents. It looks at the whole image as a whole, creates that hash, and checks it against that CSAM hash.
What the heck?
So it's not checking,
Yeah.
are you taking your 1 week old's picture in the bathtub because they're splashing around? It doesn't care. It doesn't care what is or isn't in the picture. It cares what the picture is.
It's so weird. It's so bizarre.
And I use this I use this concept in technology all the time. Actually, we use it all the time in technology, this concept of hashing. So what will happen is someone will say, hey, download my file, my program, my game, right? And it says, before you run it, check to make sure that the hash, the MD5, have you ever seen that before online? Probably not, you haven't. But if you go online in certain places, it'll be like, check the MD5 or the SHA-1 or the SHA-256. Make sure that one of those three hashes matches what you downloaded. What that's checking is that the file that you have matches directly what they are serving up, that it didn't get altered in any way, and that way there was no corruption while it was downloaded. It's a way of validating the integrity of a file, that the authenticity of the file, but it also is able to validate quickly without looking in, you don't have to open up the file, then look at every little piece of line of code and say, is this the exact same file or not? You're able to just look at the hash, the representation of it.
That's crazy. That's cool they can do that, though.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
So knowing that, okay?
I think I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
I mean, I think so.
Remember here, they have the hashes in a database on your phone, right? What happens if they get coerced by a government to add in hashes of political nature?
See, that could get irritating.
That's where we have to be cautious with this. Because
everything just has to become political, doesn't it?
Because here's the thing. You hear the rallying cry all the time. Think of the children. Think of the children. Yes, think of the children. Okay. Right. We want to protect children. We want them to have their innocence. We want them to have their life.
Yeah.
We don't want them to be corrupted or ruined by stuff that they shouldn't be seeing before then. And we don't want them to be exploited.
Right.
So don't take this as me going, oh, I want more children to be involved in making of CSAM stuff. No, that's not what I'm saying. No. So I'm not saying that at all. But what my fear is with this at times, and Apple's come back and they said, yeah, we're not going to let government do that. That's what they say, but you never know what's happening on the back channels in reality.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, we're not going to let the government do that. But at the same time, it's like, it'd be real easy for them to just add it. Now, what I think would be a simple solution to that is if they say, here's how you can view the hashes in the database. Because if hashes get added over time, then we know, okay, yeah, there's new hashes being added, but we don't know what's in the file. We're not able to reproduce the file from the hash. But it does open up the possibility then of, let's say, Aaron gets, let's say the government says, you must now include this political image in the hash database. They include it in there. Aaron downloads a copy of that file and then is able to go, oh, yeah, so my file matches this hash. We would be able to, by brute force over time, figure out what these images were if you wanted to. Because you get, no matter how you generate it, you can generate that hash and see if it matches or not. So that's where we have to be careful of that doesn't happen, that politicalness doesn't get injected into it. And that's where you start seeing along the news everywhere, people getting scared like, oh, no. They're going to use this for political measures. They're going to keep me from having my Trump shirt. They're going to tag my Trump shirt. And again, I keep going back to, remember how hashes work. It's looking at the photo as a whole. It's not looking for content or subjects within.
Right.
If Aaron gets blackballed from everywhere, Aaron is person non grata. He is no longer welcome anywhere, social media, whatever. And they go, we are now going to add him to the database of prohibited images. Right? And maybe it's a picture of you in your wedding attire for Josh's wedding with your ponytail. And all that. Okay. That's fine and all. Now, if we were to run that through a thing that did facial recognition, guess what? Your face would pop up and it'd be like, oh, okay, block it. However, if we put it through the hash database, guess what's not going to happen? You're not going to pop up everywhere. Only that one image that's hashed is going to pop up. So that's why, yes, we need to be careful about it and kind of monitor it as Apple's introducing it. But I don't think it's as big a slippery slope as people are clamoring about and yelling about online because of the fact of how the technology works. And that's what people are getting wrong is people are going, oh, they're going to look at all my photos and look at all my babies and label me for child porn usage. That's not what they're doing.
I mean,
and the thing is, they're not and this sounds horrible because, and this is why it's horrible, because those who actually do engage in this material, eventually they're going to know what that list is. And what they'll do is they'll just use other images.
Yeah.
And hopefully over time, again, this is where I'm kind of doing that balancing act in my head. Over time, that list for CSAM increases so that way we could continue to expand to actually target the actual stuff. Now, Apple is saying that as part of this process, they are going to be doing a manual review. So if you, and they're saying like it takes like 30 plus hits before that manual review is triggered. So once you get those hits, then if someone goes through, manual reviews them and says, yeah, we need to report this person to the police or not. Now, I will admit one thing that Apple needs to answer is how they are generating these hashes for these images. And the reason I say that, there are multiple hash technologies out there, essentially different formulas to get the desired results. Some of these hashing algorithms, specifically MD5 and SHA-1, do have some bugs in them. So hopefully they're not using them. And when I say bugs, I mean collision bugs. Do you know what a collision bug is?
I don't know what a collision bug is.
So a collision bug is two different objects which are hashed. And when I say two different objects, I mean they are literally different. One's a picture of an apple, one's a picture of a dog. But there is something on how that hash is generated. It's just the mathematical form behind it, where both the apple and the dog picture end up with the same hash. What? It's rare, but it's possible. Which is why I think they're adding in that limit kind of at 30. Now, Apple says, oh, it's like a 1 in a trillion chance of you getting a false positive tag.
That's pretty big. Yeah.
That's a pretty low chance.
Yeah.
That's a pretty low chance. But they're not saying what algorithm they're using to do the hashing and all that. So depending on which one they're using, we may see some more collisions than you would normally anticipate. Now, another thing that's not been good for Apple with this whole thing, they also announced another new safety feature at the same time, which has caused all sorts of confusion. Because what's happening is now people are confusing the two safety features at the same time. Because, of course, Apple announced them at the same time and didn't announce how they are different. So this new safety feature is for Aaron, you have a kid. You gave him a phone. And you and your kid are on iPhone. Yeah, I know. You could set him up with a new kid account that has safety messaging, essentially. It's safety in the messaging. Now, that one scans for content. It doesn't scan for hash. So besides the fact that, you as a parent could review with the kind of the chat history and all that, they'll go, oh, little Jimmy got a nude. And it'll prompt the kid saying, hey, you received a nude image, you really want to see this or not.
Right.
But you as a parent would get, oh, little Jimmy got a nude.
Look, he's the little Jimmy's growing up.
What?
Okay, but now that you bring that up, because that makes me think of the whole ever accountable thingy.
Uh-huh.
Like, because I know that that
they're-
takes screenshots. Well, it can take screenshots.
Yeah, and they're doing content scanning. They're not doing
That's
hashing.
not hashing. Yeah,
That's not hashing.
So, like, if I don't, but if I had like nudie photos in my photo whatever app
Gallery.
thing,
Yeah.
and if I was going through and those came up, then that would be a trigger for the app, right?
Right. Which app? The Ever Accountable app? Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just it's like if it sees something that's like, oh, that's not good.
So what it does is, for those of you who aren't aware, so what it will do is it'll take a screenshot of what's on the phone.
Now, what if it doesn't? Because I know
If-
it has that capability, but I don't think mine's on.
Yeah. So if you
But-
have Android, you can have it, or PC, or Mac, you can have where it takes a screenshot of the content on your screen periodically. It's not like a continual screenshot movie. It's a periodic thing. It's not like, I don't get a flip book is what I'm saying.
Okay. Okay.
But it'll do it every once in a while. And what it'll do is it'll take the image and whatever it screenshotted, and it'll run content analysis on it. Doesn't run a hash algorithm. It runs a content analysis.
Yeah.
Uses some sort of probably image recognition AI in the background. They don't release exactly how they do it, but it's using image recognition of some sort.
Yeah.
So it's able to recognize subjects. Now, it doesn't need to recognize this subject is Josh. This subject is Paul. This subject is Aaron. It goes, this subject is a clothed male. This subject is a unclothed female. That's what it does.
Right.
And then it tags that stuff appropriately. And then it goes, oh, okay, unclothed, blah. Is that in our list of things to tag and raise a flag about? Yes, okay, raise a flag.
Right.
And then in the portal, you only get a low-res image version of that image, so as not to cause other issues.
Right. Okay.
So you have,
Alright,
so these operate in completely different realms, and their target is completely different. Whereas Ever Accountable is something that is optional completely, where you're trying to use it to get better for yourself and hold yourself accountable to other people. This CSAM scanning is coming to everyone with an iOS 15 device that has iPhotos in the cloud enabled. So essentially, pretty much everyone who has an iOS device, because you're not going to have anyone really not using iCloud Photos that syncs up to the web, unless you really like, I'm not going to get myself caught on this.
Yeah.
Which now they know if they just turn off the iPhone, the iCloud Photos sync,
Yeah.
then the scan doesn't
they're
happen.
Kind of okay.
Yeah, because as soon as you hit that switch off, it stops the scan from happening. Now, what was interesting and what was revealed by this document is currently Apple is doing the scan server side. So remember, I said in this new update, it's going to come down to the phone. The phone's going to do the scanning. This new one, it's going to be, right now, currently, it's being done up in the cloud. And, and again, this has people all up in arms like, what about my privacy? Da, da, da. And I get that. I 100% get that. And people and other people, and I don't buy this defense. This is not a valid defense. Okay. People go, well, if you have nothing to hide, then you should be all fine with them scanning your stuff. No, that is not a valid defense. We have in the United States that we are innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, it's funny. It doesn't seem like that anymore.
I know it doesn't seem like that, especially with the court of public opinion, social media, and everything else like that.
Yeah.
100% agree. It doesn't seem like that, but that's what we are legally entitled to, that we are innocent until proven guilty. And I get where those people are coming from then, who's saying, I don't like this, that my device is now, my phone is now another surveillance item for the government, for law enforcement, for whatever. However, I will say if we keep it limited to just CSAM material, I think we'll be okay. But the moment it spreads beyond CSAM, the the second it spreads to a book, a particular photo, a movie, a website URL, the moment it spreads to any one of those things, I think we're in deep trouble. And while I see the benefit in CSAM, it just brings us one step closer to that dystopian nightmare, unfortunately. I'll admit, I am 100% torn because I think it's a good thing to scan and find people who are passing around images of children being abused.
Right. I guess. Like, what are the ways that we have right now to stop that kind of stuff?
Well, it's either you're like caught with it during an investigation of something else, right?
Right.
Someone turns you in, says, "Oh, Aaron's trading whatever," or, and this does happen quite a bit. People will go, and when I say people, I mean law enforcement will go undercover and then
yes.
and then either receive or attempt to receive, and then they'll cause investigations to be opened up in that. But essentially, it's going to come from either those investigations or people saying, "Hey, do you know so and so is dealing in this sort of stuff," and then turning them into the proper authorities. That's how it's dealing with now.
Okay. Because it's funny. It's kind of odd that this comes up because was it just last week? I was watching this video where it was like a setup where it was undercover guys were like looking for dudes online that were like doing like child porn kind of stuff or whatever. And it's like they come across a couple guys where like they think they're talking to some like 13-year-old or whatever.
Mhm.
And then they go to this person's house and then they get ambushed and then end up going to jail and stuff like that. But it just makes me think of the whole like that show. What was it was
To catch a predator.
oh well, that's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it was what was that? It was like the car stealing show. But it was like where they'd have like a car set up to be stolen, and then like people get in, just take off, and then get followed or whatever and pulled over because they'd shut the car off. And
I don't know that show.
oh, okay. This is gonna drive me nuts. But no, I was wondering, is that okay to do to set someone up to fail like that? I mean, I would say I'm glad that can happen because then it's like you're getting rid of people that would take advantage of these kids or do whatever they want to do with these kids. Because like even like reading one of the dude's messages to this 13-year-old, air quotes, whatever, 13-year-old, he was saying like wouldn't it be kind of weird if a 12-year-old was living with you? He's like, oh, nobody would see you. Kind of thing, and like how he's talking about how he would always keep them. I'm just like, that's freaky. So it's like I'm glad that they have stuff like that where they can find these people and get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess like, is it like, what is it? Is it okay to set people up like that?
So yeah, that's a whole debate of entrapment, and I'm going to leave that one to the lawyers because there's a fine line there.
Yeah,
that where you can go up to a point with entrapment, and then after that, it's nope.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting that they do that, but like
I wouldn't say is entrapment. This at all. This.
Oh no, none of this would be. No, absolutely not. So I guess it's cool that they can do that, but then obviously there's with the good, there's always the bad to potentially come along with it.
So if Samsung announced tomorrow that they're going to implement the same thing on their devices, what's your gut reaction to
take it? I guess I don't know. I'd probably be okay with it. Yeah, I think I would be, because as far as I guess like I don't know, like them finding other stuff. Would I be afraid of them finding other stuff on my phone? No. I don't know.
Okay. And
I don't think I would be upset about it.
and I say this as not thinking just for the short term, but think of the long term as
Long
well.
term. Yeah.
Because again, right now it's just scanning for known photos.
Right.
In the future, they're going to expand it to your gun, pictures of your specific gun.
Yeah.
Again, that gets harder when you start to get more generalized, more political. So I see that there's some protection in there.
Right.
But what if there's a book that they go, no, you can't read this book? How do you control things?
Right.
You control the information. So that's what's like,
Yeah. Yeah. If it could stay on the one thing, cool. But then if there's ways around it, then anyways, though. Like,
just flipping a switch off. It literally disables the whole scanning.
yeah. So it's, I guess, yeah, at that point it wouldn't bug me because then I could just be like, if it got too crazy or too weird, just be like, bye-bye.
Just flip it off.
Yeah.
Not like flip it off, like hold your middle finger up to it. Flip it off by literally flipping
Take
the
that,
switch off.
Big brother.
Okay. Yeah, because
yeah.
there's been a lot of news just flowing around about this, and it's just driven me nuts watching. And don't take this the wrong way. Watching the technological Luddites, watching the technological Neanderthals, just kind of weigh in on this, and it's like
you don't understand.
I'm like, do you understand how technology works?
No, and seeing that's like I would fall under the category of one of those like you're just gonna be looking through my phone and accusing me of stuff for having just anything on my phone. But until someone like you explains it to me, like,
yeah,
it's a lot better than I had thought.
And I've been dealing with technology. Okay. I've been dealing with technology Luddites this week, and it's just driven me nuts. It has made me just go insane a little bit.
Yeah.
And okay.
Okay.
Do you know what happened in South Dakota this week?
Do I know what happened in South Dakota this
Yeah.
week? I don't know what happened in South Dakota this week.
Oh boy. Okay.
Boy.
This drove me nuts, and a lot of this came from my mother. So
okay.
You had a therapy session last week. We're going to have a therapy session.
Yeah.
So you remember Mike Liddell. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this conversation. Join us next week for part 2. That one is a little bit longer than part 1. It's just how the conversation flowed, how it broke up, how it split out. But we'll see you next week on Use Your Words Podcast.